What?
How many times did you have to pee at Disneyland this weekend?
Oh my God, an unbelievable amount.
See, it,
Actually,
it always happens to the best of us. It always happens to the best of us. For whatever reason, they put something in the water there.
actually, I was gonna mention this at the top. Like, I was thinking about, all right, he's probably gonna ask me about Disneyland. What's like the one thing that stood out? There's a lot that stood out. Had a great time, but first ride that we rode, sounds weird to say, was Guardians of the Galaxy,
Good
and
one.
the Tower of Terror ride, and
Yes.
it, it it's fine. It's not. I don't like the ride as much necessarily, or the attraction's cool, but like the actual ride, it's different than
It's
the Tower
jolting.
of Terror. It's different. It's more randomized than the Tower of Terror, but I don't know how much I like it compared to the other one, or maybe I'm just having revisionist history. But anyway,
But
it was
isn't
the
it the
first
same
ride.
ride? They just wanted to make it they wanted to put some Marvel shit in. It's basically the same thing. It's the same thing like you're in a clock tower, you go up
Yeah,
and down, they free for all you, and it's the same thing. They just changed it and slapped Guardians of the Galaxy on it.
yeah, but at the same time, though, like the ride is different. The way it goes up and down, the herky jerky motion, it goes up and down like that. The way it goes
Yeah,
up and down,
it's
it's
the same
different.
thing.
It's different. It is literally different.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but anyway, or actually, rather, it was the second ride we went on because Ernie 2 and then Tacky. Ernie 2 said the Spider-Man one is a good workout. That was actually the first one we went on. The
Okay.
Spider-Man ride where you let the webs go. You just have to move your arms like that, and you start doing the thing like Will Ferrell in Old School, and you're trying to web these animatronic spiders. But anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy was the first real ride that we went on, and I had to chug like a grande coffee before that because I had an iced coffee in hand, and as we're moving to
Ooh.
get in line, I had to chug it. And by the time we're about to get ready for for the ride, I I I I felt it coming on. I was like, "Oh God, the floodgates are about to open, seals about to break," that sort of thing. And
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 this ride is just about to just let the lever
and
pull and just
you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. You know you're going to be going up and down. There's
yeah,
nothing worse
it's coming out of
for
one end.
yes, 100%. So, when they take the picture, that's when they do like the last official free fall and they take you all the way to the top. Um, the look on my face was not one of being scared because, um, like I've ridden that ride a lot, so I'm used to. I know what to expect. No, what the look on my face you saw was one that really was trying to hold in the pee. So my face, this isn't going to be good for the listening audience, but for those viewing it, this is what my face looked like. I was right in the middle, first seat in the middle. My face looked like this
Yeah,
because I'm just trying as hard as I could to hold
like you
in the
just
pee.
sucked a bitter lemon.
100%. And luckily, I managed to get out of it without the pants pissed in and managed to get to the bathroom in time.
Well,
So
I'm happy for you and your pants, but I'm with Ernie too here. I thought because you chug coffee, you're going to have to defecate.
no, that was the next day. I had to do that like twice.
Whoa. Okay, hold
It
on.
was
How many days at Disneyland?
two.
God, man, you guys go all out. I can only handle 1 day. 1 day and I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, we did two. The thing is with the group, I'm very lucky with the group that I went with because my buddy Nick used to be the Jungle Cruise skipper. The guys who make the puns as you're going on the little jungle cruise next to the Pirates of the Caribbean and Indiana Jones in that
It's been
area.
a minute, but so basically he was The Rock, if I remember the movie correctly.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. He was the Rock. And if he would hear you say that, he probably will. He listens to this podcast. If he
Amen.
hears you say that, he is going to be thrilled that you are comparing him to The Rock. But anyway, yeah, went with the right people. They knew exactly what to do. I was just a wandering idiot, like just doing whatever they wanted to do because I knew I didn't really care because I knew that they would lead us on the right track. And they had the Disney experience. Although, got to be honest, this is the first time I've been since 2017. Do not like, repeat, do not like this new app thing that they got going on. I don't like
What's
it.
that?
Well, to get like the fast passes and stuff. Do you remember how it worked?
Not really. It's been a minute since I've been
Hmm.
on or been to Disneyland. Since, like I
So,
said, last podcast, it was before the pandemic, like literally like 2 weeks before.
so wait, just before the pandemic. So you went there like when the app was installed.
I didn't use any app. I just went to Disneyland.com and
Ah,
bip bop boop. I was there.
right. So instead of getting the fast passes as you originally would, where you walk to, each ride and you press the button, you get the fast pass for this allotted time so that you can skip the line. Well,
Uh-huh.
instead with this one, you got to download the Genie Plus on the Disneyland app. Then you got to pay like $60 per person just so you can get this Genie Plus. And that way you can literally sign up for any lightning lane, as they call it, and in the allotted time. So it's just you had to pay extra. I didn't like it. Maybe that's because I'm just harkening back to old times. But yeah, it's vastly different than it used to be. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean Disneyland's a whole new thing now. It's
Oh,
apparently you gotta like get your tickets for the Star Wars ride, the Star Tours, whatever the hell it's called. You gotta do that like days in advance because it's so fucking popular.
we got really lucky because we went at like 8:30 at night. The first time we actually went on the one that's interactive, and you're actually, you have like a pilot, and you have the engineers, and you have the shooters, and you're actually, it's as if you're riding in the Millennium Falcon or
Gotcha.
whatever ship they use in the new Star Wars. But the other one, Rise of the Resistance, that's the one that I don't know personally, but I heard that's the one that takes like 2.5 to 3 hours minimum in the line.
Good
And
lord.
luckily, we waited until like 8 to 8:30 or something like that to go on it, and it was only a half-hour wait. So that was totally worth it. Rise of the Resistance was it's not even just a ride. Like, it is truly an experience going on that one. Rise of the If anyone likes any form of Star Wars, it's insane.
Interesting. And yeah, I mean my tolerance for waiting in lines, 2 hours, that's not worth it to me. Sorry. Like God, one of my worst memories, I remember going to Disney World with my little brother, and he wanted to do the Aerosmith Screaming roller coaster, whatever the hell it's called, and the wait time was 90 minutes. And I was like, shit, that's a long time. And he was very small, and he was like, can we go, Derek, please? And I'm like, all right, we'll wait, we'll do this thing. We did the whole 90-minute wait, got to the ride, and my little brother must have been 5, 6. We get there, and then he turns to me and goes, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, oh, buddy, we just waited 90 minutes. You got to do this. And he was
Ooh.
like, I'm so scared. I can't. And I'm like, fine. And that's my future as a parent, just doing whatever the hell they want, but then resenting them for their decisions.
That's solid.
Yeah.
That's a solid outlook in
Yeah.
parenting.
I think so. Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. Question for you, Stephen. This is
Mhm.
the first time I've noticed this in our little hub that we do this thing. Is there a timer for how long we've been going right now? Because mine is not showing up.
Uh, on the top left of the screen, yeah.
Okay, my computer is all fucked up because for whatever reason the clock is all messed up. You let me know how long we're going here because I have no clue. I do not have a time. I have no clue how long we've been talking right now.
We are at 10 minutes.
Perfect. We've been talking about Disneyland for 10 minutes. All right. When we get to like the hour mark, just shout out so I know like we got to go a little faster here.
Right.
Okay. Can't believe we're actually paying attention to the clock on this podcast. Steve and I were both in LA. Steven went to Disneyland. I was just hanging out with my friends in West Hollywood, Burbank area. And I got to tell you about this place that I went to, Steven.
Mm.
In West Hollywood, where I lived, God, if this place was still there, I may not have moved back to the Bay Area. I went to the best place on earth, not Disneyland, this new dispensary slash restaurant called Pleasure Med. It is amazing. They have a seating area where you can smoke. You can buy weed there. You can actually, there's a dispensary downstairs. And then you can buy it there and go upstairs. You can bring in even your own weed if you want to and smoke it there. They also have a bar where you can smoke. All the upstairs area, you can smoke and eat at the same time. Downstairs area, you can't, but there's a good bar outside. It was amazing. Best place I've ever been to in my life. Highly recommended. Didn't try
So
the
you
food. Can't say if the food was good, but just sat in the lounge and smoked. We made a mistake of eating beforehand and then going there, but food did look good.
so so you'd stay in Los Angeles just so you could do whatever you do.
Don't try to minimize this and try to flip it and do the thing you usually do where like, oh, Derek, you're stupid for doing this. Just hear what I'm saying and admit that it's cool. I know what you're doing. Just listen to the details and say that's pretty badass.
Man, that's cool. That's so cool.
What you want to say?
I mean, it sounds pretty normal.
What do you mean? There's no like where in the Bay Area can you do that right now? If anybody in the chat knows of a place where you could smoke and eat and drink at the same time, let me know. I'm there.
Literally anyone's apartment or anyone's house.
Like a cool place, like a place where you could sit down and actually eat like at a restaurant. See?
The Taco Bell Cantina, if you play your cards right.
In Danville?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's
I
no
don't know.
there.
I'm
See?
just trying to think of places. There is no place like that. But that place
See?
would actually have you leaving, staying in Hollywood.
Dude, I lived right there. I was telling my buddy that I used to live with, if this place was still around while I was living there, I would have walked there every day.
Wow.
Now,
but
the
you
only
didn't try
caveat to
food.
the whole thing. Sorry, go ahead.
But you didn't try the food.
We literally just ate at a brunch spot. Then he was like, "Oh, dude, this is the place I was telling you about." And we got in there. We were so full. We just sat there and smoked and had a jolly old time.
Wow.
Now, the only
Sounds-
caveat is there are no
Mhm.
TVs to watch sports. That's the one thing they're missing.
Yeah, but if there were TVs on there, like I don't
I
know,
wouldn't leave.
wouldn't you want the TVs playing something like cool, something trippy, you know?
No, we're not a cozy car, Steven. I wanted like sports on.
Oh, cozy car.
You know what I'm talking about. And
I
anybody that's been a
erased that
cozy
from-
car.
I mostly erased that from my memory, and now it's back. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it was a good time. You, me, Whitley, Ratto, Carl Buszczyk, all drinking in a jacuzzi.
Those two guys who just came from Mamma Mia 2.
Yeah. Porn in the background. That's the vibe at Cozy Car. Anyway, should we talk some basketball here? Sports? Anything?
What a way to move on.
All right. So while I was in LA, I tried to catch the Pelicans Warriors game, but God forbid, the place that we went to in West Hollywood just had to have the Lakers Grizzlies game on.
Did you
But
you drive or did you fly, by the way, to Los
I flew.
Angeles random?
I flew
You
to the best airport that if you just want to get in and out of LA, Burbank Airport. Easy as hell.
So you chose not to drive.
Chose not to drive. Didn't have much time. Just figured, I hate driving for that long a time, honestly. Did you guys drive or did you fly?
No, we flew.
Nice.
We flew.
Southwest?
We flew into Burbank.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I'm
The
surprised we
outdoor baggage claim?
Yeah, man. Outdoor baggage claim. And you get to get off the plane, reverse, and get on the plane from the back. Love it.
Yeah, it feels badass doing that.
And I love that when people don't know that. It's like a little secret. It's like, you idiots, watch this.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, we was trying to watch the Warrior game Friday night, and they lost to the Pelicans. Didn't see most of the game, but saw pretty much the box score on ESPN, and just I guess the vibe was that Steph Curry just kind of looked gassed, and Clay and Draymond were coming off rest from the night before and played that game. But the reality is the Pelicans were just the better team. But may have been a blessing in disguise. Did not realize that the Spurs beat the Nuggets that night. Had no clue that happened. So yesterday, when I'm flying back, I'm trying to catch up with everything that's going on. Saw that, at that point, I was like, do the Warriors really want to go all out to try to get a home game for the 9-10 spot? And if anybody wants to, I know Joe Lacob sure does. But you don't control your own destiny. The Lakers had to lose. The Kings had to lose for them to go to the 8th spot, but they were, the Trailblazers were playing their G League team. So the best thing to do was to rest everybody. Well, everybody, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson did enough for them to win that game yesterday. That game doesn't matter. But Lakers dominated over the Pelicans, and I think the Pelicans just kind of eased up knowing that they were going to have to play the Lakers again in the play-in. And the Suns kicked the crap. Well, not they kicked the crap, but they're finally gelling together with the big three of KD, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. And they beat the Timberwolves, who had a chance to get the 1 seed. And it fell through their hands. Karl Anthony Towns trying to get in a groove when he's coming back. But the way things played out, I think this is the best case scenario for the Warriors, honestly. Now, would it have been great if they had the 8th seed and, played in the 7-8 game and didn't have to deal with a, win or lose elimination game tomorrow? Yes. But they play the Kings, who are injury riddled, Steven, and you wanted to play them over the Lakers. I wanted that ass, but I'm cool with playing the Kings because it's an easier matchup. And then the Thunder get the 1 seed. So if the Warriors beat the Kings tomorrow, then advance to play either the Pelicans or the Lakers, and win that game, they will be the 8th seed. And they will play the very young and playoff inexperienced Oklahoma City Thunder. A lot of shit has to happen, but I could not have been happier with what went down. I think this is the best case scenario for the Warriors. Yes, I know they have to go on the road and everything, but I think everything kind of shapes out for them right now.
The only problem with your take is that you're just going against everything that you wanted this entire time. Like, you're supposed to, come on, Derek, play the game here. You're supposed to come on here and talk about how pissed you are that they're not playing the Lakers.
I play my own game, Steven. Yes. Well, here's the thing. I think there's a very good chance we still play the Lakers. How you like that? How you like them apples, huh?
There is a solid chance there, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this all worked out. I am very cool with the matchup of the Kings, and we can get into that right now, but in all, kind of analyzing everything, I think this is a blessing in disguise that they lost on Friday night.
I think we're set up for the best game of the play-in tournament, at least in the first set of games. Kings and Lakers, 3 out of the 4 regular season matchups have ended just by 1 point. What was it? 102 to 101, then like 132 to 131, 124 to 123.
Yeah.
Only thing is
2-2 tie in regular season.
I like how we want to look back at the postseason last year and we just talk about that when in game 7, Steph Curry dropped 50. That's all anyone wants to talk about. Well, the last time at Golden One Center, though, they gave up a 24-point lead. So which version of the Warriors are we going to get? But I like where they're at right now.
That was an in-season tournament game. There's something on the line there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I like where the Warriors are at because of their health. I know GP2 is missing tomorrow's game, but I think you can get by
and Friday if they continue on.
Right. And the fact that the Kings are missing a guy like Malik Monk, who was fantastic in that series, if I'm not mistaken, back in the postseason. He's always great against the Warriors.
He was a pain in the ass a year ago. Yep.
That he was. So I really like the look of this. The only problem I have with it, if they do advance out of the play and go into the playoffs and they take on the Thunder, like, damn it, the Thunder were going to be my team to cheer for, like, outside of the Western Conference. I think that's something we would have discussed on the podcast. Like, what other team are you rooting for, if any? Well, in the Western Conference, it was going to be the Thunder. And then out of the Eastern Conference, how can you not root for the New York Knicks? Like, how can you not? So I'm kind of sad in that regard, because it's a fun team. It's a fun team. And seeing them actually climb their way to the 1 seed just because they had the tiebreaker over the Nuggets. This is a much easier path for the Warriors, but I'm just a tiny, I'm not saying totally conflicted, but I'm just a tiny bit conflicted because I was going to be cheering for the Thunder outside of the Warriors in this Western Conference. That's just where I'm at with that.
But do you like the playoff experience of the Warriors against a lot of these teams, actually?
Oh,
well,
God.
Let's just focus on the here and now, because we'll get to that point. But like I said, even though the Thunder, I think, beat the Warriors 3 times this season, may have been 4, and they were all extremely high-scoring games, if I'm not mistaken. This is going to be crazy fucking Western Conference playoffs.
Yeah.
From the teams that are at the top, very inexperienced Thunder, the defending champs at 2, Timberwolves, who have some playoff experience, but they're very young. The Clippers, who apparently Chris Haynes is saying that Kawhi Leonard's leg is swelling up as we're speaking. So who the hell knows what's going on there? The Mavericks, who are back to what they used to be after missing the playoffs a year ago. Remember that whole thing with Jason Kidd saying you can't cheat the game, the last game of the year? Remember that? Now they're in. See, tanking works. The Suns, who were expected to be at the top of the West this year, but just barely missed the play-in. They're at 6. The Pelicans, who, with a healthy Zion and all the guys that they have, Brandon Ingram coming back, CJ McCollum, who has playoff experience. And then you got the Lakers. And then you got the Warriors. Or then you got the Kings. And then you got the Warriors. I think this is going to shape out to be crazy, where just because you have the higher seed doesn't mean shit. And I think playoff experience will come into play. I think that we may overthink the new young teams that are playing right now. Like, I'm overlooking the Thunder, but they're the 1 seed for a reason. So it's going to be fascinating. But just as far as this matchup, Steven, you wanted this one. I still want to play the Lakers and end their season, but we'll get to that hopefully on Friday. What do you think of this matchup? We're basing a lot of what we saw a year ago because that was just such a great series. 7-game series where Warriors were down 0-2, and then they win that game 3 without Draymond. Draymond, that was the whole Sabonis thing, stomped on his chest. They barely win game 4, if I remember correctly. Harrison Barnes had a 3-point shot that just clanked off the rim. They win in sack, and they could have closed it out at Chase. They lose that game, and then Steph Curry goes off for a game 7. And it really was just the playoff experience of the Warriors that prevailed in the end. They couldn't just stop Steph Curry. And It's a similar situation. We're going straight to a game 7 tomorrow. So do you think the Warriors they're 2-point favorites. Do you think the Warriors are in a good spot despite having going to sack? We all know what happened a year ago. The light the beam stuff. The fans will be crazy. They'll, Bob Myers, I don't think will be there. No, he's got to do the ESPN games, but they'll be clanking those cowbells. Do you think the Warriors are in a good spot given the Kings' injuries and their own playoff experience of how much the Warriors have been tested?
Of course, but you never know what can happen. The reason I'm intrigued with this matchup is not because, necessarily the injuries and how it shakes out, because both teams have just been streaky as hell, really, this season. The Warriors on one end of streaking, then the Kings on the other end of streaking, if that makes any sense. But if I had to take my notebook out and try to list off all of the reasons as to why I'm intrigued by the matchup, I just love literally from top to bottom. I've used the word literally like 6 times already in this podcast, but from top to bottom, just the connections from the owner, Vivek Ranadive, the fact that he's going to be the fact that he's the owner of the Sacramento River Cats with the A's moving to Sacramento, the fact that he was formerly the Warriors co-owner back in 2010 before he became the Kings chairman in 2013. Then you get to the head coach. Obviously, we know with Mike Brown, the familiarity there. And then on the court, it really does appear that these two teams, they have mutual respect, and a lot of these younger ones are going to say out loud to the media, like, yeah, we have all the respect in the world for the Warriors. I don't think the Kings like them very much. So when there's a little bit of animosity and this just geographical rivalry that they got going on right now, I know Steve Kerr always said you got to meet multiple times in the postseason in order for me to consider it a rivalry. Well, geographically, this already is one. So with everything that's just embedded into the matchup, that's what I'm looking forward to most. Do I think the Warriors have a great chance? Yes, but you've also seen the Warriors fall flat multiple times. Look, I'm just glad that this game is – I'm just glad this game's on the road. I don't know what it is. This magic at Chase Center doesn't seem to be there. I think it's fully in their favor, but at the same time, the Kings are a very good team at home. So I think the energy level, the atmosphere, everything baked into this dish I guess as we're going to go with a cooking metaphor. All the ingredients baked into it. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. The Lakers, and I'm telling you, I don't want LeBron in a 1-game series. I just don't want that.
I do. I want that ass, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
As far as tomorrow, yeah, I think the Warriors are in a prime position to win this game. Now, I'm not gonna. Now, in a 1-game playoff, I mean, this is so NCAA tournament that anything can happen. The Kings are at home, and De'Aaron Fox has had good performances against the Warriors. So has Sabonis, and that crowd is going to be ready to go and get revenge from a year ago. Yeah, I mean, I think the Warriors on paper are the better team. The Kings were for most of the year, and then they just started to leak oil towards the end.
Yeah.
And now, yeah, I think the Warriors are gelling. Not having GP2 out there is going to be difficult, but they could get by. My question is, and this has been brought up today a little bit, Kevon Looney was amazing a year ago against the Kings. And Trace Jackson Davis has been doing well. But do you think Steve Kerr in a 1-game playoff elimination game, do you think he's going to rely on more of the old reliables? Do you think that Kevon Looney should play in this game? Why not?
I don't think that would make
much
sense.
I should say.
That would go against everything that he has preached over this year. And his latest thing, it's all about the combinations. We've been talking about the combinations all season. It's kind of been at the forefront, whether it's the Kuminga and Wiggins combination, and how, in that span before Wiggins took his leave of absence, in that time frame of like December of 2023 into January, it was, well, do you play Kuminga or Wiggins? Can you play both? Kerr says no, because that's redundant. And really, when they're on the floor together, their numbers are not any good. And then that combination ended up working, and that's what he went with. But the latest combination that he's been kind of preaching about, that touting, is the TJD and Draymond Green combination. When those two are on the floor, it opens things up for everybody else. And I know that Kevon Looney has the experience, but a lot's changed in a year. And though he was fantastic in the postseason, it's not to say he can't just turn it on. I haven't seen Kevon Looney enough to where I'm going to ride with him in the do or die game and just go away from what's working. That wouldn't make much sense to me. You want Kevon Looney, don't you? You want Loon Dog. You want him in there.
I wouldn't be opposed to it, because I know that Trace Jackson Davis has been very effective this season, and so has Jonathan Kuminga. But this is nut cutting time. This is not fucking around time. I don't need.
So why would you go out there with Kevon Looney?
Because Kevon has proven himself in playoff time the last few years.
Ugh.
And honestly, his whole tenure with the Warriors. Why are you souring on Looney? Come on. He's been there for us.
Because he's see, this is where you can easily, this is where you can just skew everything that I'm saying in the direction of, I don't like Kevon Looney. It's not that I don't like Kevon Looney, but if he plays Kevon Looney when he's barely played this season, make sense. Like, Looney has, if anything, has just been kind of a liability when he's out there. You know what I mean? Kind of like Ryan Gosling in Remember the Titans.
Yeah, he couldn't cover. Oh, was he playing defensive back, or
he was a liability at defensive back? Yes.
Yeah, he couldn't cover that wheel route.
Nope.
Also, skinny white kid playing DB.
Yeah. But it's just, Looney's not the same player. Looney's not the same player, and it's just, I think you'd be doing the team and yourself a disservice if you're rolling him out there and sacrificing the Trace Jackson Davis minutes when TJD has just been getting better and better this year. And it's nothing against Kevon Looney. It's just, this is what's worked for the Warriors.
I hear you, but I want to be surprised. Let's see what Steve wants to do tomorrow. I could see him starting Kevon Looney.
Well, look, if he does, fine. But I don't think that's going to be that's not going to be the be all end all to this game. Like, the key to me is
it definitely won't be the be all end all.
No. But the key to me in this game is Klay Thompson. what's he going to look like? Is he going to look like this Klay Thompson that we've seen in this little, 15 game stretch? Is he going to be the Klay Thompson we saw early in the season? Because I don't think it's any coincidence that when Klay Thompson has looked the way that he's looked over these last, 20 games, I don't think it's any coincidence that the Warriors have managed to even put themselves in the conversation of potentially getting the 8th seed in the Western Conference. I don't think they would have done that without Klay. So that's my number one question going into this one is what's Klay Thompson going to look like? Which version of him are we going to get?
Well, we need a different Klay Thompson than we saw a year ago. I don't remember how Klay performed against the Kings, but I do remember him just having terrible games against the Lakers a year ago. So he needs to come to play, and I think he will.
Klay's just never been that good in the postseason. He's had some spurts, but not consistently good.
Game 6 Klay.
Yeah, there's game 6 Klay, but even last year, didn't that whole game 6 Klay get dispelled?
Well, he did not play well in the game 6. Nobody played well in the game 6 against the Kings a year ago.
You see,
and the Laker game.
Derek, you're really getting me today because it seems like you've been complaining all season that people are looking back at the past, and somehow you want to look back at the past and transfer that into this little talk about the play-in tournament. You're making me pissed off.
Calm yourself.
I'm just kidding. Your tits. Just hyped.
Listen. Yes, because when the Warriors are in playoff mode, we all get excited and we all expect them to do their thing. But maybe we should temper our expectations too, because while the path I think is easier than I expected, eventually they are going to have to play some tough teams. So we'll see. I mean, they could lose tomorrow too. And then we're having this conversation all over again of fuck the past. Let's look to the future. But this is what I'm saying for the here and now. Kevon Looney, I think, helps them in this matchup. I do. I think that he did a good job against Sabonis last year, and I do think that Steve may rely on that. However, this is a play-in game. So you could just be like, okay, this isn't working. Fuck that shit. Let's just go back to what we used to do. And maybe it's too late at that point. I think that both coaches have to put out all the stops. I mean, it's a game 7. This is a win or go home. So Mike Brown's going to do everything that he can. He knows Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr knows him. I think it's going to be very fascinating. I just want to be surprised. Should they do it? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I agree with you that Kevon Looney has not been his best for the majority of this season. But I do think that Steve has the mentality of when it's time for these crucial games, the playoff games, he's going to rely on experience more than, youthful athleticism that we've seen from Trayce Jackson-Davis and Jonathan Kuminga. So while I do think those guys will help, and Jonathan Kuminga was MIA last playoff run, I think he will be pivotal this playoff run. He has to be. I just think that Steve will go with who he trusts. And I would not be the least bit surprised if Kevon Looney starts.
I will concede here that Looney was getting more minutes than Trayce Jackson-Davis when the Warriors played their games against the Kings. It's actually kind of crazy to think that there are only 4 games this year. They were done in January because you played like 3 before December. So maybe with the uncertainty of the matchup, I don't know if Kerr would do that, would play Looney more just because of what he did in the postseason last year, but because of what Trayce Jackson-Davis hasn't done against the Kings this year. I still think it'd be a mistake. I think it'd be a mistake. You got to work with you got to go with what's working here. And let's just say, I don't know what the starting lineup's going to look like, but let's just say Klay Thompson's in there. Or I don't know, what if for whatever reason he benches Klay Thompson, which I don't think
Klay will start.
But if Klay's not working, but if Klay is playing like the Klay who played against the Kings earlier this season, who wasn't very good, then you're just stuck with what? Draymond, Kevon Looney, then Andrew Wiggins on the floor. Like I think that's too much of a sacrifice. I think Trayce Jackson-Davis gives them much more of a scoring threat, gives Domantas Sabonis something to think about, something we haven't even mentioned. You talked about Mike Brown. Like, I think he really understands how to get under Draymond's skin. And I don't know what those secrets are. I don't know what he does, but there's a reason that something always happens with Draymond against the Kings, because I think Mike Brown knows just all these little ways to kind of agitate him. So I wonder what he's going to have in store for tomorrow night. That's another question I have.
Well, Mike Brown was the ultimate Draymond wrangler. Like when
Yeah,
things were going
yeah.
on, when he was the assistant coach, he would always be the guy like, Draymond, get back here. And that would be Bob Myers' job too. That's another question I have, and that will be pivotal for tomorrow. We obviously all know what happened a year ago. Draymond stomped on Sabonis' chest. I tried to defend it in the moment. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He stomped on his chest. And you think that'd be enough for Draymond to, learn his lesson then or grow, but then more instances happen from that. Obviously slapping Nurkic in the face. And the Kings fans, like there was that whole moment a year ago when Draymond did that where he was in the center of the arena and the whole arena was after him. And he was just like, come on, you all want to take me on? Let's do this. That can't happen tomorrow. Now, he can get amped up and talk shit to the fans. I have no problem with that. But it can't be a point where we lose Draymond in that moment. Are you concerned about that at all?
Well, of course, always concerned about it. Like, how can you not be? It's Draymond. I mean that could be the key to the whole thing. And that's why I question what Mike Brown is going to do. And can Draymond overcome that, overcome the emotion? I don't know what that is. I don't know if he's going to do the he hadn't done it so much this year, but I remember after he got ejected, I think it was that 2020, was it the 2022 season? Was it the year they won the championship? But the year after, 2022, 2023, he was just getting into arguments with refs. And as soon as he really disagreed with something and knew he was about to go off, he would just sprint to the other side of the court like he's Steph Curry pregame. So I wonder if he's going to do that again tomorrow. But of course, that's always a concern, dude. Like, how can you not be concerned about that? I think everyone's going to have that on their mind. I think with the Warriors and the way they're playing right now and how healthy they are, I think a lot of people are very confident, but it's not injuries. You got to be worried about losing a player. It's Draymond potentially going off an official and how power hungry that official feels. You know, I mean, we could get as pissed off as we want in the moment, but like at the end of the day, some of these refs have this huge ego, especially in the play-in when they know eyes are going to be on them and then say, hey, I am not to be messed with. Like, you are not going to go at me here on national television. That's not going to happen. I mean, you're in La La Land if you think that's going to happen. So I really think that it's a concern, but I don't know. It's kind of the last thing on my mind. If that happens, I'll just let it happen.
I think Draymond, even though he's combustible, I think that he's smarter than that to do something like that in a pivotal game. So while, yes, he has violent acts like a year ago, he didn't get tossed in that game. Unless he did. Was it a technical 2 in that moment?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, then maybe he got tossed. But that was game 2. They had time, and then he was suspended for game 3. I think that knowing the situation and knowing their season could end tomorrow, I think that Draymond will be a little smarter. But Sabonis will fuck with him. That whole arena will fuck with him. So I think that there are things that could go against the Warriors. Definitely. I mean, they still got to travel. It's a short trip, but they still got to travel. And they're not home. And this Kings team wants revenge. So now on the other side, the Warriors, besides GP2, are fully healthy. And they've been playing better basketball than the Kings have. So they should win this game. But you know, when you're on the road against a desperate team, anything could happen. And the familiarity between these two coaches scares me a little bit. And honestly, last year scares me a little bit because the Kings played really well. And honestly, if they would have won that game 4, where Harrison Barnes missed that 3, they probably win the series. So they're out for revenge, and it's going to be fascinating. I think it's going to be really fun tomorrow. I think the Warriors should win, but it's a better matchup than the Lakers. I will say that.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like I did not want the Lakers. I still don't want the Lakers. I'd rather have the Pelicans in the second game of the series. So
that's a lot of travel.
Rather. It's a lot of travel, but It's a risk I'd be willing to take because the team has kind of proven that travel doesn't really impact them as much as it does other teams. Travel seems to be fine with them.
Okay, but even though the Warriors have beaten the Lakers 3 out of 4 times this season, you don't care. You don't want to face them.
Nope.
All right. Okay, fair enough. Well then, Steven, it's NBA playoff time again, and we're back to picking games. So dust off your hot ones, and we'll get to hot ones later. You still got some last dab and all that shit?
Well, yeah, because I only eat
it's
it
right
at a
behind
dab.
you.
I only got to eat it at a dab at a time. I got this full one here. Those ones are empty. I think that's cool to put the empty bottles on display. This one here. Whew.
Maybe if we lose, or maybe if the loser this time should have to chug it like Conan O'Brien did.
I'm not chugging that, dude.
He went
you
all
can.
out. I'll talk about that later. That may have been the best interview of all time.
You think so?
On that show, but we'll talk about that later. Let's pick these playing games, and let's start with Warriors at Kings. Steven, who you got?
I got the Warriors. What's the score going to be? I'm just going to keep on going with history. And I think it's going to be a 1-point game, and I'll just go Warriors. I'll just choose a random number. These games have been relatively high scoring, at least the last couple. So I'm going to go with an average here. I'm going to go 128 to 127.
Warriors. Ooh, God, that'd be a nail biter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with the Warriors too. I think it's just because they're the more experienced team. The Kings will be without Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk. And yeah, I just think the Warriors right now are playing better than the Kings. So I think they end up winning the game. It'll be close. Hopefully not a 1-point game, but I think it'll be close. Warriors win. What do you think of the other Western Conference playing game? Lakers at Pelicans. Anthony Davis says he wants to play in the game, but he did at the very end of the game yesterday against the Pelicans tweak his back. So we'll see if he plays. And, it's interesting that well, I mean, he should play, but of course, Anthony Davis spending his early career with the Pelicans and then forcing his way out, saying or wearing the shirt that says "Goodbye, folks." That's all, folks, whatever, and pretty much just sabotaging that season. Now potentially, or he's gonna be in a playing game against them. Zion, his replacement. You think that LeBron's gonna get a bunch of calls in playoff time, and maybe he does. But who you like in this game, Steven? Lakers at Pelicans?
Yeah, I like the Lakers in a blowout.
Damn.
3 out of 4. Again, I'm going to go with history. 4 out of their 4 games, rather, decided by at least 10 points. So how am I going to say that this is going to be a close one? I think the Lakers run away with it. And I don't know what score it's going to be. I mean, I don't know. I'll just give it a 115 to 100. But I think the Lakers are going to run away with this one.
You don't have to give scores. I mean, this is basketball. The scores are all over the place.
All right. But I think they're going to win by double digits.
Damn. Just because of LeBron?
Just because of LeBron. I think that he's going to wear down Zion Williamson. I think the Lakers overall are going to wear them down, and all that stuff you're hearing with the back. I think that's just all talk because everyone knows that Anthony Davis is injury prone, and whether he's going to play, he'll play. Anthony Davis is going to play. He is not going to tarnish whatever's left here of his legacy just so he doesn't play in the play-in tournament.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if Anthony Davis doesn't want to go to New Orleans to have to deal with the fans and takes the night off. And then if they win or lose, he comes back for the next game.
Yeah, that's the ultimate. That's not going to happen. Come on.
We'll see. Wouldn't be surprised. I think the Pelicans... The Lakers were going all out to win that game on Sunday. The Pelicans eased up because they kind of knew that they were going to have to play them again. Now, if they won the game, they would have avoided the play-in, but it is what it is. Yeah. So I think the Pelicans are a better team. I do. I think that Zion's been playing to his potential finally. Brandon Ingram's going to come back. CJ McCollum's playing well. He's got playoff experience. I like the Pelicans. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think they are the better team. And it's 50-50 on Anthony Davis right now. So if he's not going to play, I think that hurts them. Yeah, I'm going with the Pelicans to win this game.
God, dude, if he does not play, that would for sure put like a fracture in the relationship with him and LeBron James, 100%.
Well, hey, We'll see how many more years LeBron plays. Because I can't wait for that too. If the Warriors beat the Lakers on Friday night, the first thing will be like, so LeBron, what's your future look like? And that'll be the talking point instead of the Warriors winning. But
yeah, we said that on the podcast. Like either way, even if the Warriors beat the Lakers, that's going to be the thing. It's like,
yeah,
he's going to have someone at Dave McMenamin, the guy who covers LeBron, kind of took over for Brian Windhorst in that regard on ESPN. He's going to be like, so you're retiring, and he's going to have like the inside
butt hurt.
He's going to have the inside scoop and all that sort of stuff.
All right, this is kind of weird. Do you like that the Western Conference games are both happening on the same night and the Eastern Conference games are playing the other night?
Yeah, I like it just fine.
All right. I thought it was kind of weird. They usually do East-West, but whatever. At least the Warriors don't have to play at 5 o'clock. That would have been a pain in the ass.
I kind of like them being. I kind of like them. I don't really like them staggered because when you have them both in a row, you kind of know, like, all right, these two teams are playing each other next. All right, can't wait for this matchup. Instead, it's like you play one in the East and you got to wait. I'd rather not. I'd rather not do that. So I'm good with both conferences playing in the same day.
All right, Heat at the 76ers. Joel Embiid back, and this is what the Heat do. They always, they go. I couldn't believe the other night they're wearing jerseys called Heat Culture. Like, what is that? Heat culture is basically, playing like some dogs in the playoffs, but, being a 7 seed or an 8 seed and then just, kicking ass in the postseason, taking over the East and then losing in the finals. Is that Heat culture?
Well, no, not necessarily, but I mean, it's part of it. If you're really looking at the Heat culture in totality. Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything you first mentioned is what they want to think Heat culture is. What Pat Riley thinks Heat culture is. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that the Heat are kind of establishing themselves as like one of the premier franchises in the NBA. They've been around for, 30 years?
Yeah.
Okay, they won 1 championship. Or no, more than that, 3 with LeBron. Okay, but I don't know. I don't think of established Heat culture.
You were getting up there on the pole vault, but you failed to land the dismount. If you know what I mean.
Why do you say that, Steven?
It seems like you had something cooking with this Heat culture thing, but I don't know if you really nailed it.
Fair enough. I don't know. We try to look for like a cooking reference there at the end, a little analogy for you.
Something.
I had nothing. I think it's just funny that they're wearing jerseys called Heat culture.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
Okay,
but it's what's instilled in the franchise. It's what the people know, man. They know Heat culture. The Heat is on. Heat culture, all that stuff.
A little Glenn Fry, right? Eagles.
Yeah. Beverly Hills
Cop. Yep. Heat at 76ers. Who you got, Steven?
I got the 76ers in this one. I just think Joel Embiid's going to be too good.
Yeah. This will be interesting because Jimmy Butler, once upon a time, a 76er. I think that the Heat are really good when it comes to playoff time, but they lost the playing game a year ago too, and they lost the Hawks, I believe, and they snuck right in as an 8th seed. And I think that's the same thing here. They really don't care what seed they are; they just like to go and dominate whatever Eastern Conference teams they play because the East is weaker than the West. So yeah, I'm taking the 76ers. And I wouldn't be surprised if the 76ers, now that they are healthy, go on a little run here. We'll see about that. Last one, the below 500 matchup. Hawks, who I think are 9 games below 500, and the Bulls, who are whatever they are. They're below 500.
Hawks are 10 games below at 36 and 46, while the Bulls are at 39 and 43.
See, this is the other argument to not have the playing game. The Western Conference shows what the playing game could be. Like all the stars, really good teams. The East, Hawks at Bulls. Do you give a shit?
No.
Exactly.
No.
But who's winning?
Normally I'd say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go with the Hawks. I'm going to go with the Hawks on the road. Trae Young, go off. I'm on the Hawks.
I'm the same way just because Trae Young has played in the postseason and he's done well. So that's the only reason why I'm taking the Hawks. I have no idea how they performed this year. I haven't watched them one time, but the Hawks have with Trae Young have gone on playoff runs. Could happen here.
Why does this happen? Why has this happened every year since the play-in tournament was installed?
The
It's like
Hawks.
there's always just one conference where you're like, God, this is stupid. Why not just have the top 8 teams move on? Like, do we really need the 9th and 10th seeds to play each other? Like, come on. And then like
So
you got it in like the Western Conference though, where this play-in tournament is kind of needed. Like, can you imagine if both the Kings and the Warriors were bounced out when it seems like they're very deserving right now, at least to get a shot in the first round?
Yeah, but in normal years or years before the play-in tournament, this would be common. So, I mean, I remember the year after the Warriors had the We Believe season, they had a better record and didn't make the playoffs. So shit like this happens, but this is Adam Silver's way of always getting LeBron and Steph in big games, even if they don't make the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't mind it. Should we? Well, I do mind it when it's Eastern Conference games that nobody gives a shit about with below 500 teams, but that's just one part of the whole thing. Should we move to football, Steven?
Sure.
All right, then. So, some wide receivers in the news the last few days for announcing their loyalty to their teams. They're staying put. I'll give you some examples. T. Higgins. I've been waiting for him to get traded. Doesn't sound like it's going to happen now. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about me bringing up constantly this offseason, Steven. You're lucky. Even though I thought that it may be a possibility, yesterday, T. Higgins goes to his youth football camp. It says, we'll see, but I do anticipate being in Cincinnati this year. Not a firm confirmation, but I think with the way that the Bengals do business, they're not going to let him go. And they much rather have a Super Bowl caliber team with him than without him. And they'll just let him walk in free agency next year. They probably should get some value for him right now, but it would hurt their Super Bowl chances. So for now, it sounds like T. Higgins is staying with the Bengals. Then you got Devontae Adams. He goes to his youth football camp, and he's asked about his future with the Raiders, and he says, this is where I want to be. If I wanted to leave by now, I would have already been gone.
Did you get that one song in your? Did you get your one song in your head?
Which one?
That one song in your head when he said that? Like immediately as soon as he said it, or when I read it in an 8 Dog voice. This is where I want to be, riding with my thug ones, smoking on some weed. You got chronic, won't you light it up? Yeah, little 213.
Did not think about that, but now I do.
Guarantee you Devontae did.
R.I.P. Nate Dogg. Did you know that I didn't know he was dead for the 2 years after he died?
You didn't know that?
No, it was during college, and I was like, whatever happened to Nate Dogg? And someone's like, he's dead, man.
Damn.
I don't know why I said that like John Gruden. Hey, you know about Nate Dogg, man? He's dead.
Ernie one, that is no Nate Dogg. You are correct. I am no Nate Dogg. No one. There's only one Nate Dogg. But that song, yeah, thought about that.
While the West Coast rolls along. Thought that was pretty good.
Got any more?
I got a couple more receivers. Devontae Smith signed an extension with the Eagles today. 3 years, $71 million, 51 guaranteed. And that leads me to a guy that's staying put for now, but I don't know. I do not know. Brandon Aiyuk. So anytime someone wants a contract, this shit always happens. Friday, news breaks. Shocking news, breaking news that Brandon Aiyuk unfollowed the Niners on Instagram. Now, why Instagram? Why is that such a big fucking deal compared to Brandon Aiyuk? I checked. I don't know why I did this. Wasted my time. Brandon Aiyuk still follows the Niners on Twitter. Is it because he doesn't use Twitter as much as Instagram? Is that the big deal? Why is Instagram the be-all, tell-all of a person's unhappiness with their team?
That's exactly why. He doesn't use Twitter. Use Instagram, though.
Okay, but
he's used his Instagram to get his message across, as has his girlfriend, as I think it was his brother who also came out with something after the Super Bowl. So, yeah, Instagram's where it's at. He probably forgot about his X account. No one uses the X anymore.
What are you talking about? Everybody does. Break news.
Yeah, but like Instagram is where you really get the point across.
I see.
Yeah.
So all the old fuddy-duddies. Now Twitter or X is like Facebook?
It's getting there, yeah.
Well, now you got to pay for it if you're a new user, apparently.
Right. Well,
Oh, fuck that.
Facebook's in its own realm right now. Good God, the amount of AI generated photos I see on there, it's unbelievable.
On Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah. People like these I'm not trying to be ageist, but these old folks, they're getting duped quite a bit on that old website.
By the way, Jesse chimes in here. The cement laying isn't going well, is it, Derek? Apparently not. I'm spending a lot of time figuring out about Brandon Aiyuk, who he's following and whatnot. I'll get to the
What the
cement
hell,
laying.
man? I gave you 5 excellent tips as to what you could do to avoid paying attention to the NFL offseason. And you haven't done the scuba diving. You haven't laid any cement. I forgot what the other 3 were, but those 2 were my favorite. Didn't I say take up golf? You haven't taken up any golf.
There's plenty of time, Steven. See, this is like we still got draft time. I'm talking like, June, July, when nothing's going on.
You'll find something.
I probably will. If Justin Simmons isn't signed by then. Oh God. You better pray, buddy. You better pray. And I did take your advice on something. Well, we'll get to that a little later. I did do something you did tell me about. Okay, Brandon Aiyuk. So he unfollows everybody or just the Niners. And then over the weekend, this is where NFL accounts or NFL rumor accounts can be dangerous when they're not, the guys with the check marks, the real, actual newsbreakers. John Frischella, don't know who the hell that is, but he tweets out that he heard from a reliable source that Brandon Aiyuk is wanting a trade from the 49ers. Then 49ers and NFL News 24/7. You seen this account, Steven? Just some guy that's like a no name, just some account, kind of like Dov Kleiman, who just tweets out Niners news all the time.
Okay.
Well, they also had a story that Shanahan called up Belichick, and I never knew if there was any validity to that. Anyway, both of these accounts basically said they have reliable sources that Brandon Aiyuk has demanded a trade from the 49ers. And then Mike Garafolo comes in, or sorry, not Mike. Mike Garafolo retweeted this, but Brandon Aiyuk's actual agent tweeted out, "You guys need better sources because this shit is not happening." So, this is where we stand today. Everyone thinks that Brandon Aiyuk wants a better deal, and he does. It's plainly obvious. He probably should get something in the realm of Devontae Smith, maybe even better. I think he's a better player. But it's clear that Brandon Aiyuk is upset with the 49ers and wants to get paid. Does this get resolved by next week's draft? Probably not. If you know how the Niners operate, they don't do deals right now. They always wait till August in training camp. So I would not be the least bit surprised if Brandon Aiyuk does demand a trade in the next couple weeks. If we get to the draft and he's still on the Niners and no trade has been done or no contract has been done, I'm not doubting that he, through his agent, then says, I want to be traded. And then things don't happen for a while. He doesn't show up to mini camp or whatever the hell. He doesn't show up to training camp. And then things get resolved, hopefully. I've always said that I think that Brandon Aiyuk is more valuable than Deebo Samuel. I would sign Aiyuk. It's like right now what the Eagles are doing, they paid Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown is still on his contract from the Titans. Or actually, they gave him a new deal when they traded for him. So A.J. Brown's got a deal from the Eagles. And they're paying Devontae Smith. They're making it work. The Niners can do that this season. But after that, then they got to start making some moves. And that's probably when Deebo Samuel is going to be moved from the 49ers. But I would tell everybody, calm down. I think that Brandon Aiyuk just wants to get paid. He's perfectly fine getting paid on the 49ers. But if somebody is willing to pay him also, and maybe more than the Niners, then he's willing to do that. Whether it be the Steelers or Bills, whoever the fuck may be in the mix to trade for him. I also think the Niners are considering possibly listening to those trade offers because this wide receiver draft is crazy. So I'm not jumping to any conclusions. I don't think that anything is set in stone with Brandon Aiyuk. I'd say let's just see what happens during the draft. If nothing happens, then we're going to be in for a long summer.
Okay. you went through a lot of angles there.
I did.
Um,
I don't know if I said anything really that spectacular.
you managed to get us from the 56-minute mark to the now hour mark. So
Thank you for that.
there you go.
And yes,
There you go.
Ernie too. I do need to clear my throat.
But look,
let me clear my throat.
I think there's so much unpredictability around this, and I don't know. To me, Brandon Aiyuk has always been kind of, if I had to like take the roster, he's always been kind of one of the nice guys, you know. Just the guy just keeps his head down, does his work, has overcome a lot, you know, got out of the doghouse with Kyle Shanahan, and obviously wasn't rewarded for it. I can't really say I'm surprised that this is happening after the Super Bowl. Do I think the 49ers are going to pay him? Ultimately, yes. I think they're going to get the deal done, but I think this can become a concern here in the build up to the draft. I think, I know you're telling 49er fans to calm down, and I get that, but you haven't gotten anything definitive, like say with Devontae Adams saying, "This is where I want to be." Like, Aiyuk hasn't really said that. He wants to get in the best place to win him some championships. Is the 49ers the best place to do that? Probably, compared to other suitors. But let's just say they can't promise him that. What if they, I know what you're saying here, get rid of Deebo Samuel and all these things, and that's what they'd have to do. But what if the Niners don't want to do that? What if Kyle Shanahan feels he's so vital to this offense that, you know what, I could do this with another first rounder if we pick one up in the draft? Like, is Kyle Shanahan that arrogant? I mean, who's more important to the who's a more important piece to the puzzle here? Is it more important for Kyle Shanahan's system, or for the quarterback that they're going to pay probably, I don't know, an average of what, $54 million with a lot of guaranteed money? Because I think that keeping Brandon Aiyuk absolutely bodes much better for Brock Purdy's career, as opposed to just, you know, speaking on the system individually. So I think there is a little concern there, but I do think they're going to get it done. I do think they're absolutely going to get a deal done. But I think 49er fans have every right to be concerned right now.
Yeah, because nothing's happening. But I would say I don't think they're planning on trading Aiyuk, but they're probably listening to offers. And there's teams out there. Like I said, Steelers have been linked to him, I think, the most. Bills are in the conversation. Even the Commanders, the Adam Peters angle there. But I don't think the Niners are going to budge on this. I think that they'll probably look over the wide receivers in the draft. I mean, the rumor last time was that Deebo Samuel was really coveted by the Jets, and the Niners were thinking about doing a trade that could potentially would give them Garrett Wilson. And that would be, I mean, I don't know how Garrett Wilson would be in a Kyle Shanahan office, but probably pretty good. But I think they're weighing all the options, but I think that they're just going to ultimately try to look for offensive line help, look for defensive back help, and maybe draft a wide receiver, but nobody to replace Brandon Aiyuk. And I think that Purdy actually relies on Aiyuk way more than Deebo, because Deebo is very similar to McCaffrey, just a good athlete with the ball in his hands. But Aiyuk is more of the reliable number one receiver, in my opinion. So, yes, Walter Iqbal Celta of KMBR, who's in the chat, I do not think that the Niners are trading Brandon Aiyuk, but I think they're mulling the options. Ultimately, I don't see them doing it. I think that they'll pay him in August, and then they'll try to win the Super Bowl this year, and then they got to make some moves after that.
I like how Walter said, "Calm your tits." I think that's the first "calm your tits" we've gotten in the chat so far. Is it?
That's my saying.
Also, Walter, good to meet you through podcast on the YouTube chat. I think we got each other on LinkedIn. Did he start doing a show?
Yeah,
Did he start doing a show on the air? Hell yeah.
Yeah. KMBR Giants coverage weekends. Walter Iqbal Celta.
Let's go.
John Miller knows his name.
Oh, well done. Oh my God, John! The way John Miller, I've heard him say his name on the air. It's just
Walter
Iqbal
Celta.
Iqbal Celta. Yeah.
The best was the other day. We got a new guy, Kyle Haar, who does Giant stuff for the weekends, and Kyle Haar, simple name, and for whatever reason, John Miller just and he's like, thanks to our board ops, it was Kyle Haar, Kyle Haar.
Yeah, we went at opening day. He was I caught him like literally as soon as he was about to walk out onto the field to do the player introductions, and I held the door open. I held the door open for him, and he goes, "Please, you go first. Make your way to the field first." And then I he was just being a nice guy.
Yeah.
God, if he did that thing that Vince Scully did, I could hear him read a grocery list if I needed to, asparagus, broccoli, bell peppers.
Pull up a urinal, Stephen.
What?
You never heard Dave Fleming's Vince Scully story?
No.
Dave Fleming's in the bathroom. Vince Scully's there, and he's kind of like, "Oh my God, Vince Scully's here." And then Vin turns around. And he's like, "Dave, pull up a urinal." Just him, and it's just them two together in the bathroom.
That's amazing. That's wow.
Yeah,
best bathroom break ever.
Yeah. Do you ever think that? I was watching Oppenheimer a couple weeks ago. Do you ever think Cillian Murphy's voice as Jay Oppenheimer in that movie sounds like John Miller?
I didn't connect those two when I saw it.
Watch the 3-hour movie again and let me know what you think.
I might have to.
Yeah, because I think the way he speaks, like, we need the atom bombs to go together with this, and it just makes me think of John Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Barbie twice, but haven't seen Oppenheimer twice. Need to watch.
Haven't seen Barbie once.
Yeah,
and I never will. All right, Stephen,
where were we?
We're moving on now to my QB quarterback evaluations, because I know you love these. But you know what? Yep. I'm going to throw it to you, because you've been making fun of me for bringing up mechanics and all the things that go into looking at these QBs. So tell me, Stephen, what do you think of Michael Pennix, huh? And Bo Nix? What's your 2 cents?
I've given you my 2 cents already. I've given you my 2 cents. All right. I don't trust Bo Nix because he wasn't great at the start with Auburn. And what was the head coach's name at Auburn at the time? Gus Malzahn or whatever his name is. Isn't he still the head coach?
Maybe.
And then he transfers to Oregon, and then he gets in Dan Lanning's system, and all of a sudden he's like a Heisman finalist. I don't really buy it. Or a guy who could be a Heisman Trophy finalist, and then he's just gonna get drafted to the NFL. Like it's only gonna work if he is with the right system. Whereas Michael Pennix is a complete opposite. I don't think it's necessarily going to take the system. It would be great if he finds a good one, but I think Michael Pennix it just has the arm and the talent, if he's healthy, to where he can fit with a lot of systems in the NFL. Whereas I'm not sure with Bo Nix. So I like Michael Pennix Jr. far and away.
So yeah, I'll break it down more simple than I have in the past, because I've been listening. I'm like, I'm trying to sound like Dalen Jeremiah or any of these like quarterback gurus. Basically, it's this. From what I've seen, Michael Pennix is the second best QB in this draft. And I think that he's more pro ready than the likes of Jaden Daniels and Drake May and JJ McCarthy. So the thing with Michael Pennix is I think he is the best deep ball thrower in this draft. He just whips it, and it's there. And he's got a great arm. He's more accurate when he throws the ball down the field in one-on-one coverage than he is, honestly, when it's the short game, the intermediate game. He, for whatever reason, struggles with that. And it may also be that he has a lot of talent around him, way more talent than he had at Indiana. The offensive line that the Washington Huskies have, plus the wide receiving core, was incredible. There's also the injury history. He's had, let me look it up real quick because I wrote down, 2 torn ACLs and 2 separated AC joints. So not good for his throwing shoulder and not good for his legs. He can run, 40-yard dash he did for his pro day was pretty incredible, but he doesn't really run. He's more of a drop back thrower. Kind of reminds me of Tua or Russ or even Deshaun Watson. Um, so in the Texas CFP game, he was incredible. Everybody watched. He was just slinging it down the field, and it was incredible to watch. The fourth quarter, where they didn't believe put the ball or put the game away, was where he struggled because that's when Texas was basically taking everything away deep, and he had to look to the short game, and he just struggled with that. That's what Michigan did the entire game during the national championship. They did not let him throw deep. And Michael Pennix, for whatever reason, just struggles with kind of making quick decisions when it comes to having to check the ball down or throwing to a receiver. Many a time I watched it where the Michigan players were just locked onto a guy, and then Michael Penix would throw to them, and he gets smacked right just really quickly. Just couldn't complete passes. That's the issue. And I think, plus the injury stuff. But I think a lot of coaches can help him with that. I think he's got the talent. I think that I think one of the hardest things to do is find a college quarterback that can throw the ball accurately down the field. I think he does it better than Caleb Williams. I know I've already said that. Jaden Daniels is close to him. Jaden Daniels has a really big arm, but Michael Penix can sling it down the field. So I think that it all depends. Like, I think we're talking about it in Raider terms. If the Raiders think that he's worth taking in the first round, then they'll take him at 13. If they realize that they can get him later on and draft maybe an offensive lineman at 13 and then get him maybe the first pick in the second round, trade with Carolina, then I think they'll do that. But it all depends on if Luke Getsy believes that he can coach the bad habits out of Michael Penix and really how many years left of football he has. Because he is older than a lot of these guys. He is 25. He played a long time in college. The injuries don't help. A lot of guys think that he won't have a long career. But will he make the most of it in the time that he has? That's the problem. As far as Bo Nix, really athletic, throws the ball down the field. He is probably the best athlete among the quarterbacks. But for whatever reason, this could just be me, he reminded me of Tebow. Not that he throws like Tebow whatsoever, but just the versatility of throwing and running. He was just an athlete. Just really looked impressive in Auburn. They got really good with Oregon. The problem with him, though, is that when you watch every throw montages on YouTube, if you watch the games against Washington, it's all the highlights are misleading because he can throw down the field very well, but that's not the majority of his passes. The majority of his passes are behind the line of scrimmage. He does a lot of zero routes or straight to the wide receiver. And that stuff happens in the NFL a lot more now. But that was a lot of Oregon's game. Like the game against USC, he just threw two passes, and Troy Franklin, whoever the other wide receiver was, just took it and ran with it. So I think Bo Nix is kind of more of a project, and I think that he's more of a second-round guy. But if I had to rank all of these QBs, sorry, go ahead.
Just to me, the guys that we're not talking about enough when it comes to Bo Nix, with these quarterbacks, I know with LSU, Jaden Daniels had Malik Neighbors, and I understand that with Washington, Michael Penix had Roma Dunze, and I understand all that. But with Oregon, we're not talking enough about the offensive line. We're actually not doing the same with Pennix too. With Pennix, I think you're going to need a really good offensive line in front of him. That's one thing with him. The talent's undeniable, but you need some protection up front. And you also with the Ducks, you got to talk about the offensive line, and you also got to talk about the running back, Bucky Irving, who was just fantastic for them, and the system kind of was built around him, at least to me. Bucky Irving was outstanding last year, so I don't think we talk about him enough. And the Ducks are the only football team that I watched because my best friend's a fan of the Ducks, so I watch them because of him.
Look at you. You're a big old Duck boy.
Yeah, let's go Ducks.
I know. Yeah, you're Ducks. You claim them as your favorite college football team now.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't like to because it feels like I'm stealing from my friend, but I do like keeping up with them.
All right. So I got to be honest. Watching all six of these guys, I liked them all. But if I had to rank them, I would go 1, Caleb Williams, 2, Michael Penix, 3, Jaden Daniels, and it's close there. Jaden Daniels will be really good in the NFL with Cliff Kingsbury's system. I just think that he's really skinny and he's going to run a lot. But as far as like he could throw two, but as just like a pure passer, I go Caleb Williams, 2 Michael Pennix, 3 Jaden Daniels. I would go 4 Drake May, 5 Bo Nix, and I would put JJ McCarthy last. Only by default. I think like I said before, I see a lot of Brock Purdy. I see a lot of good drop back quarterbacks. I just don't see him as a first round talent, but he does do really good things. So that's the way I see it.
Is there really a chance all these guys pan out? Because I like, I'm watching all these mock drafts and stuff, and I'm seeing so much of the just crazy stupid love for JJ McCarthy that I just don't understand. The Bo Nix thing, I don't really get. Like,
in what way that people like him or don't like him?
Just the way that people think that he's like a first round pick. I just don't get it.
Okay, so that's the question I have. Are all 6 of these guys going in the first round?
Right. I mean, that's a $1 million question. You got to think at least one of them doesn't.
I would say no. If I had to guess, 4 of them do. And I think some teams are scared of Michael Penix's injury history and Bo Nix just not necessarily being like a traditional drop back quarterback.
Gotcha.
You respond to somebody in the chat here?
I am, yes. Or I was texting. I didn't listen to what you said. What'd you say?
Just I think the Knickses are going to be nixed out of the first round.
Okay. All right. It's fair.
All right. I'll move on to the wide receivers. Next podcast, I'll have some intel on those guys.
Hell yeah.
All right. Steven. First and we'll do a little pop culture catch up here to end the things. How are we doing on time? What's our run time here?
We're at 1 hour and 15.
All right, cool. We got some time then. Steven, pop culture catch up. I've asked you the last 2 times, what have you been watching? And every time you say
Taskmaster.
Well, was in LA hanging out with my friends and hanging out with the couple that I used to live with, Kaylee and Grayson. And sure enough, when I was hanging out with them, first thing they say is, Derek, have you seen the show Taskmasters? Masters?
Mm-hmm.
I can't even say it. And I was like, no, but my friend won't stop shutting up about it. And they were like, it's amazing. You need to watch it. They showed me an episode. It looks fun. It's fun.
Yes.
It's very Whose Lines in any way. The thing that I'm not a huge fan of, I'll be completely honest, is I wish they would just show all of the tape stuff and not immediately go to them all sitting together and the jokes. Like the going back and forth between a tape segment and the live segment just kind of weird to me. Also, why is Nick Muhammad always in Dracula makeup?
I haven't watched the new season, so I don't know. I don't know. So he does that. The guy from Ted Lasso.
Yes, he's in it. What was his name? Ned? Or Nate. Nate.
Yeah, Nate.
He's in it. So this is brand new. I thought this was like how he got his start, was appearing on this thing, but I guess not. Or maybe it is. How long has this show been on the air?
Well, this is a brand new one. Nick Muhammad's kind of well known in British television.
Yeah.
And then and then goes to then kind of gets on Ted Lasso and
Phoebe out of nowhere.
Yeah. That gets on Ted Lasso and I don't know, I guess becomes the fall guy, so guys could hate him or the fans could hate him, but he got his start well before that show.
Yeah. Well, I watched it and it's fun. I just don't. So in the episodes that you've seen, do they do where they get all the comedians together, then show the tape segments of what they actually did, then go back to their reactions?
Yeah.
That seems like a little too jarring to me at times, but for the most part, I think it's a very fun show. Like I said, Whose Line Is It Anyway?
It's awesome, man. I just don't watch the new season though. The new seasons, they don't really try to find the loopholes in the tasks that they do.
Okay.
The early seasons, they do. The early seasons, they're. And if you really want an idea of British comedy, I saw someone explain it like it's almost like their version of the Avengers. They just have like that rotating cast of comedians who are on their panel shows. Like 8 out of 10 Cats does Countdown, quite interesting, or otherwise known as QI. I can go down the list. Have I lied to? Would I lie to you? All those different ones. They brought them onto the show early, so I recommend watching the early ones. I'll send you the playlist.
They're all on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. They actually have an app. The show has an app too.
Damn, really?
Yeah, that's how my friends watched it. But yeah, no, I'm interested. I'll be watching. But the highlight of the weekend, and I know you watched it too, Steven. Conan O'Brien on Hot Ones. We've been watching the show for quite some time now. I think the show's been going for like 10 years now, coming up on it, close to it, maybe. Conan totally got it and blew every interview out of the water. Any other comedian you've seen on that show that went crazy, like Eric Andre or Bobby Lee, pales in comparison to Conan O'Brien. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's 20 minutes of just gold. He goes crazy. He, is on his A game. He is by far the best improviser I've ever seen. He's the best episode on Murderville. Remember that, Steven?
Oh, yeah.
And for him to just go all out, to rub the hot sauce all over his face and spit out the milk, he was a mess, but it was just comedy gold. And I'm glad that people are realizing how great Conan O'Brien is now, because I see like a bunch of clips on Twitter and people are like, "Oh my God, Conan's great." If you weren't around, if you're too old like me and Steven, if you're too young, but if you're too young to not remember Conan O'Brien on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, then to the Tonight Show, and then his own show Conan, to now a new travel show that looks amazing. I can't wait for that. Conan O'Brien was the king of late night to me. He's hilarious, from all his old bits to Triumph the Insult Comic Dog to the Interrupter to different, like the masturbating bear was incredible. Just all the stupid characters he used to do back in the day is just the pillar of comedy, late night comedy to me. So I'm just glad people are discovering him again. But yeah, I highly recommend watching the Hot Ones interview. It is amazing. Some of his best.
It's so good. He just knows he understands what he was supposed to do. He understands his role. He knows what people are looking for. Like, I watched an interview with one of his interviews with Jimmy Fallon, because he's making all the media rounds, and like, the interview wasn't nearly the same because it kind of was more sentimental, because they were just like going over like their histories and stuff, but also like the interview format with those late night shows, it's just so outdated. It's like, beforehand, he mentions this on Hot Ones, he mentioned this on the Tonight Show, like getting a chance to speak in depth with his guests, as opposed to just talking for 7 minutes. All right, we're going to go to a commercial break here. All right, we have 5 more minutes and we have these time constraints, so let's keep it within this time. Like, it doesn't work. Like, you don't really get to know the actual celebrities that way. And to be honest, I don't really listen to Conan's podcast because there's way too many damn ads on there. It's like very frustrating just to continue skipping on with the ads. I don't know whether it's in an ad or when it's not in an ad, whether it's live reads or actually recorded ones. It's too much. But all the respect in the world to Conan. He's the best. He's the best. I mean, I'm not going to like sit here and rank late night shows because everyone has their own opinion. Letterman growing up for me was number one, just because that's what we always watched. And my dad hated Conan, so he never had Conan on.
But Conan is the Michael Pennix of late night talk shows.
Sure. Yeah. Like, guys like Letterman walked so that, Conan could run.
Absolutely.
So, and I just love how self-deprecating he is and everything that he does. And he's just such a pro. I mean, the dude drank a bunch of hot sauce and still managed to like promote his show without fumbling any words. I can barely give a take on this podcast without fumbling any words.
No,
in a normal state.
I know. I was blown away with how he did not misspeak the entire time, and he was on his A game. Nothing was not funny. It was incredible. Conan. I never watched Conan for the interviews, except for when Paul Rudd was on to do the normal thing where he would do the clip from Macamee, which was always hilarious.
Right.
Conan. I love Conan for the bits or the string dance or just all of the stuff that he would do not in interview format. That's why there was an episode he did where he went to Finland, and the entire show was just the trip. And that's when I knew Conan was going to be great at travel, like just doing travel shows. Because I never thought he was. The interviews were funny at times, but I always loved just the bits. Like he's a comedy writer at heart, so he just doing like skits and stuff was the best stuff. I always thought that Craig Ferguson was the better interviewer because he would literally have a guest on. They were going to promote whatever show they were working on, and then Craig Ferguson would rip up the card immediately and then just talk about whatever the hell he wanted to talk about.
Right.
And it was more goofy. It was kind of like Pee Wee's Playhouse in a way, where they had Secretariat, the talking horse, and the gay robot, and then they would choose like, do you want a harmonica or an awkward silence? It was just goofy in the interview format. But Conan was the best as far as like just crazy shit that came out of nowhere on his show. Not so much the interviews, but just being him.
Yeah, and I like that and as you mentioned at the top, I like that he's getting all the love that he's getting right now that he so deserves, because I don't think he was getting this much in the pre-social media era, just because there was so much competition, and obviously the whole thing with Jay Leno and Conan's on one side of it. And I just think now with the state of where late night shows are at, like I think a lot of people are kind of yearning for those times.
Yep, and Conan's got a new show, I think, coming out this Friday on HBO Max, or just Max. He makes fun of that too in the interview. Conan Must Go, coming out this Thursday, so that will be awesome. Also happened this weekend. Not a big SNL guy anymore. Used to love the show, but don't catch it as much. I caught a few clips of Ryan Gosling on Saturday Night Live. It was actually pretty funny. Did you see the Beavis and Butthead sketch?
I didn't.
I highly recommend it. It was just like the best sketches, the ones that will stand the test of time with SNL, honestly, are the ones where everybody breaks. And that's kind of like a classic moment. Not in the same vein as Cowbell with Will Ferrell, but it was pretty close with just the two guys, Ryan Gosling and whoever the other cast member was, dressed as Beavis and Butthead. And no one, I guess, knew ahead of time how they were going to look. So every time Heidi Gardner turns around, she just cracks up. It's very well done.
Well, it's also been very well done. I've been working in Ryan Gosling movie titles for the entire podcast so far.
Have you now?
Yeah. So I got in Drive. I got The Notebook. I mean, I just said Remember the Titans with Ryan Gosling, and I don't know. There's no real connection there.
You just said it.
I got First Man. I got La La Land. I don't know how I worked I should have worked that in with the Los Angeles one. I got in Fracture. I got in The Fall Guy.
You did.
And then I managed to just work in Barbie, though that was like kind of just in conversation.
Yeah, I don't count Barbie and just mentioning the movie titles.
Yeah. Oh, and the Nice Guys. I got the Nice Guys in there. So
look at you. Nice Guys underrated movie. I need to go back and check that out because I remember liking it but not loving it when I first saw it.
Show within the show. Oh, I got Crazy Stupid Love in too.
You did. I when you did say that, I was like, are you talking about the movie title?
Just trying to entertain myself. And I also messaged the Ernie's on the side.
Nice. Well, go back and listen to that podcast, audience, for his little twist there.
Yeah,
from Steven.
Just entertaining myself. But yeah, no, he do the alien sketch too.
The alien
three
sketch.
People, the one where those three people get like abducted by aliens, and yeah,
I didn't watch that one, but he brought back. There was one sketch he did a little while ago, and they did a sequel to it called Papyrus, where he was going crazy because the Avatar logo was just written in papyrus, which actually is a good concept, but you could tell like one SNL writer like went crazy over that.
Yeah. No, Papyrus was a good one. Look, it's the thing about Saturday Night Live that gets me. It's you can get a great guest, which Ryan Gosling is. I think he's a very multi-talented actor. I think he's hilarious. I think he's got, if the Nice Guys showed anything, it's that his physical comedy is fantastic. Crazy Stupid Love, he can obviously play kind of this jerk, but at the same time, you want to be that jerk. You're like, God, that guy's cool. It does a lot of different it does a lot of different things. But with Saturday Night Live, when I look back on like the old skits and what I think's changed most, it's not just the writing. I do think the writing has at times become kind of lazy.
Yeah.
But like none of their actual cast members stand out to me. Like they're not the focal point of the sketch. Every single time it's the guest who's the focal point of the sketch when that's not how it should be. I was just watching, what was it? God, what was it? It was I forgot the title of it, but it was about a courtroom in Maine. The main trial or something like that, where Jason Sudeikis just plays this judge who sounds like he's from the wall.
Yeah.
And he like makes Jamie Foxx break, but it's always the guest who's playing like the secondary character. I just, that's the biggest difference to me, is none of these cast members can be that number one, point of the story or of the sketch. It's always about the guest. And I think that's, or the host rather. And I think that's truly what's changed from the previous iteration to now.
Yeah, I mean, since the Keenan's been on the show for 20 plus years, and I always thought that they should just keep recurring characters could be hit or miss, but if they're good, they're good. So I never knew why they stopped doing What Up With That, because that was hilarious when they bring on big celebrities to just sit in the chair and then they never got a chance to speak. The star of that was Keenan, and yeah, I agree with you, Stephen. They're missing that now. But
you didn't have Lindsey Buckingham as Bill Hader as Lindsey Buckingham.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you didn't have Jason Sudeikis in the funny Adidas tracksuit, so it wouldn't work.
That's true. You definitely need those guys for the non-speaking roles.
Yeah,
it worked perfectly.
I do hate like the amount of disrespect, because these people, these, after all, they're comedians. They work to get to where they are, and they're on the premiere show, but it's just not the same, because they don't have anything special. They don't have anything unique. It's always different. Like I'm never seeing like the for example, the Ryan Gosling alien bit, like Kate McKinnon being the one crazy wacko person who got abducted and just, smoking cigarettes and like, oh, they got to the drunk in my trunk, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing. I don't just I get very emotional when thinking about, or passionate rather, when thinking about Saturday Night Live, because I used to love it so much, and just seeing what it's turned into. Ugh.
Yeah, everyone always says that everybody thinks the best SNL time frame was when you watched it like in high school or college, and I agree with that. I go back and look at when I was a kid, I watched the old classic ones, but yeah, it really is that they don't have a great cast right now. That's my opinion too. It just doesn't stand out. There's no bits, there's no characters. I honestly just if Colin Jost and Michael Che are doing a weekend update and they're talking shit to each other, that's what I watch. The rest of it, I'm like,
yeah. God, dude, like, where's the one I'm getting here? Ooh, the Phil Hartman. Do not forget him ever. Phil Hartman was just fantastic when Phil Hartman would do his Bill Clinton.
That or the caveman lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Your world frightens me and scares me. I'm just a caveman.
God,
by the way, go ahead.
Man, I was just like, I was like 13. Yeah, I was 13 when I got to my TV. I was watching Saturday Night every night at 11:30. I'd be at my TV.
Yeah.
And Dick in a Box came on, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, but you don't see that anymore.
You don't. I mean, now they have the Please Don't Destroy kids, but I don't really know them very well. I heard their movie with Conan is actually pretty good, but yeah. No one really stands out.
They're a little lucky too, because they're also sons of people within the NBC realm. One of them, his dad is like the assistant to Jimmy Fallon on the show.
Oh, is he?
And one of them is like a showrunner for NBC. So there's a little connection there. There's a reason that they got onto SNL.
Damn Nepo babies.
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, no, when it's true, it's true. Lastly, I did see this weekend Monkey Man.
Ah,
Very good movie. Very good. Dev Patel's directorial debut. Um, if you're expecting it to be John Wick and just nonstop action for 2 hours, that is not the case. It's equal parts action and a man trying to avenge his mother. And there's a lot of, heartfelt moments and sad moments. But when there's action, oh, there's action. It's intense. It's a brutal movie. Not even like the action parts, like the whole revenge part, like why he wants to, avenge his mother is quite a graphic scene. But when there are moments where he kicks ass, it is all out. So is it the best movie in the world? No. Um, is it kind of a simple plot? Yes. You've seen this a million times where a kid loses his mom and then wants to take vengeance out on that person. Um, but it's fun. It's a good popcorn movie. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I thought Monkey Man was pretty good
well, you know why John Wick is nonstop action, right?
because the director was a stuntman,
No, well, I guess in part, yeah, but also because
Keanu Reeves
Keanu
acting.
Reeves is not a good actor, not
Yeah,
that great.
no,
As
that's
much as
fair.
I love him as much as I love him the person, love Keanu Reeves a person, not a great actor.
Yeah,
it's like it's like I do.
it's literally a line in John Wick 4 at the beginning of the movie. You ready to go do your thing, John Wick? Yeah. But they're great. They actually reference John Wick in Monkey Man. Okay.
Yeah.
Last thing before we get out of here.
Mhm.
Last Thursday, right after we got done doing a podcast the night before, the story breaks, news breaks, I should say, not a story, news breaks. O.J. Simpson has died. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, I've been waiting for this day for a long." Well, I shouldn't say that. I've always wondered. I shouldn't say that. I should say, phrase it. I've always wondered how people are going to react to this story in sports media. How are we going to react to this news? Do we tell both sides of the story? Do we say OJ was a great running back? He also murdered his ex wife and Ron Goldman. How do we handle this? And it was mixed. I remember seeing the news, and then I went to the gym. ESPN was on. They got Adam Schefter to talk about him, which I thought was just weird, but whatever. And everyone did obituaries, and they had to acknowledge his sports past, but you can't neglect what the man did. And I think that I'll my dad did the show on Thursday, and he opened up talking about how OJ was his hero when he grew up in Buffalo. And then my dad also said that, I'll choose to remember him as number 32 with the Buffalo Bills. And listen, I love my dad, but I disagree with him there. You can't just you can't just focus on that. You can have both sides of the conversation, but you have to acknowledge that OJ, while he was an American icon and a sports icon, the man murdered two people. And I know people are going to say, like, oh, he was found innocent. Look at the facts. And it's one of the most fascinating things that has ever been done in the history of the world, to be completely honest. That trial is so fascinating, from the documentary that was made with OJ Made in America, or the FX series with David Schwimmer just saying, juice, juice, no, not Kimmy's room, juice. It's so, like, I asked you, Steve, like, how did you phrase it when you did your sports updates that day?
Well, I was a sports guy.
Yes.
So I was going to do the sports news, or what he did in sports. But I wanted to make sure that I prefaced every report that I did by saying it's a very complicated sports legacy.
Yes.
And there's actually one audio clip that I used kind of to encapsulate everything. It was from the NFL Films, and it was the top 100 greatest players ever.
Yep.
And he was voted number 40. And the sports writer, Chuck Klosterman, who's you always see on the 30 for 30s, he was the one who was doing like the narrating and the introducing, whatever you want to call it.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah, he basically said, like, look, he tarnished his legacy. Like, you can't think about you can't think about what he did on the field without thinking about the second half of his life. And then this was perfect for the occasion, not the occasion, because the occasion connotates something positive, but he basically said, like, in his obituary, number one, it's going to be OJ Simpson accused of double murder of his ex-wife and his ex-wife's friend. And then number two, it's going to be this. And then number five, it's going to be he was the best running back of the 70s. And, in his time in builds with the Bills and what he did at USC is going to, that's going to be like down at number five, number six, but you listen to his obituary. So, it was tough, but at the same time, like, a lot of people may not know the history of what he was in San Jose. So that's really or San Francisco, rather. That's what I tried to, kind of tried to sort of report, because like, and plus we had so many people on talking about it throughout the day. People who were part of the trial. Eric, who's one of the anchors, Eric Thomas, used to work for ABC7 for a long time. He was talking to me about it, and he's just, he said he's never seen anything like that when he was down there in 1994 for the trial. Like, no one has ever gotten that much attention over that. It's just crazy, dude. It's crazy to think about his life and everything that came along with it. And I didn't know really like the magnitude of why it was such a big deal until really that OJ Made in America doc.
Yeah.
Like, to be completely honest, I didn't understand like how truly good of a player he was back when he was with USC and the Bills, and the history with Marcus Allen and all that stuff with the Kardashians, even, the rumors around that. And obviously what he did in the media through Hollywood, movies, all that sort of stuff. So, like, I was just 1 year old I was 1 year old during the trial. So obviously I didn't see it. Crazy.
No, it was way before my time too. I was born in 91, but I was just a baby when that stuff was going on, from the Bronco chase to everything that went down with the trial. But I think that our generation has really been fascinated by the whole thing because of the documentary. And I think the documentary is one of the best pieces of media ever made, to be completely honest, because it covers everything. And I learned about OJ from my dad. My dad, he would go through, he could tell you his rushing total every game from 1973. And my dad idolized OJ. Now, I remember when the documentary came out and we watched the first few episodes, and he was like, "Oh man, I remember that game and this." And then it got into the horrible stuff. And that's when my dad was like, "I can't watch it. I can't take this. I can't watch this." But that's the reality. That's who he was. That is who he is. That's how he'll be remembered. I would love it if we, remembered OJ as the running back who became Nordberg from Naked Gun, but that's not the case because he did horrible things after that. And I think that we have to have honest conversations when a lot of these people die. Like, I wonder how we're going to react when Woody Allen dies or Bill Cosby. Can you have an honest conversation to say these guys were comedy geniuses? At the same time, they did horrible things. Can you have a fair conversation about the man those people were and then what they became? I think we can. But it's tough. Like, just watching like some people on Twitter say RIP, I was like kind of like, I mean, someone died, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I'll be completely honest. I don't wish death on anybody, so I don't love reveling in someone dying. But I'll be completely honest. I did think of Norm that day. I did think of Norm Macdonald and all of the great jokes he told back in the day during those trials. Those are hilarious. So I think you can do both. I think you can have an honest conversation about who he was and what he became, the sports angle of it, the murder angle of it, and also not shed a tear over his death.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Schaap kind of put it perfectly when he said, look, anyone who's seen all of the evidence would know that he did it. And am I going to lose any sleep over this? No. Do I feel any sorrow? No. like that's just how people feel. And he was very direct about it. So I don't really fault anyone who is saying that sort of thing, or in that realm, in that family of how you kind of talk about this sort of thing. And it's one of the things though, and I think Ernie just brought it up, was Low Neal, when he apparently auditioned to play AC in the show, and then he kind of did a part of his audition for us on the air, and it's one of the greatest things that I've ever heard in my life. Juice, what you want to do, Juice? What you want to do? Think about the kids, man. OJ, think about the kids, bro.
Yeah, poor Low Neal. And then of course, he did not get the role. That ended up going to Cosby's son on the show.
Yeah, and Fortenbaugh just kept that OJ joke going really until the end of the show.
Well, yeah, it was just kind of a weird day. Like I knew it was going to be kind of a mixed reaction of, are people going to say fuck OJ, or are some people going to honor his death? I don't know.
Right.
It's tough.
Yep.
Anyway,
kids.
What's up?
Moonbase. He said Moonbase 5. Moonbase 8. That was the other one that he auditioned for, and he
Low.
Then he made Cody act it out on the camera, and you know how Cody is.
Cody's very stiff when he reads.
Yes. Sorry, just wanted to keep you in the loop. Man, have you watched The Rover? No, it's our Rover.
It's a pretty spot on Cody. Well, Steven, we got a big old basketball game tomorrow. So we'll be back on Wednesday to react to whatever happens. Warriors win, move on to the play-in game on Friday, or season's over, and then we got to start talking about the plans for the offseason, what's going to happen. And maybe we get a jump on Steph Curry's plans for the Olympics. He's going to be a part of the Olympic team.
Woo-wee.
It's going to be fun. But we will be back on Wednesday. If the Warriors do advance to a Friday night game against the Lakers or the Pelicans, we'll see when we're back on. Probably Saturday. We'll figure out the time for you guys, but that's the plan going forward. We're going to do show Wednesday night, usual time, 7:15, and then if there is a Friday game, we will do a show on Saturday at some point. So until then, thanks to everybody in the chat. All the Ernies, Ernie 1, Ernie 2, AJ Cruz, everybody was here tonight. Skills, AJ Cruz, Otis Bird, Tacky, Walter Ichabal Celta, even Jesse. No, Danny Golding TV. Come on, Danny. But thanks everybody that was in the chat tonight to listen to us. Steven, say what you always say, my friend.
It is just our opinion, man.